towards that with a fundraising workshop. So today, what we're going to do, I'm going to spend a few minutes. We have an hour and a half on the agenda today, so 12 to 1:30. I'm going to spend about 10, 15 minutes talking about the Nordic Canada Annual Club Fundraiser, how it works, what it is, and why it is that we would like to really engage our entire community in that club fundraiser. And then I'm going to pass this off to Layla to do a fundraising workshop. I know it's not the title of it, but Layla and I talked about calling it taking the ick out of fundraising, and that's what it is for me. She's called it something a little bit more professional. So if you have questions, we do have moments in the presentations where we're stopping to pause to ask questions, to give you the chance to ask questions. But if you have something burning and you really want to stop us, please just drop it in the chat or put your hand up, and we'll be happy to do that then. So what is the Nordic Canada Annual Fundraiser? I know clubs have seen this. I know there are clubs in the system and on this call that have participated in the Nordic Canada Annual Club Fundraiser. But what it is, it's an annual campaign that's run, it's a closed 3 months campaign that's run from January to March. And it is aimed at supporting projects at our Nordic ski clubs. It has club controlled pages. So what that means is a club that decides to participate in the annual club fundraiser basically has a club or a fundraising website that's set up through the portal Canada Helps. And you would define your project. You'll have a thermometer. People will be able to leave messages and things like that, put videos, photos. We'll get into that for a minute. It's really easy for donors. So once you set up your club fundraiser page, then donors can just go in, make a donation. They can leave a note. Tax receipts and thank you messages are sent automatically. They can leave comments. They can share it on social media. And I don't think that the majority of the clubs in our province are aware of this club fundraiser, and it may be a communication challenge on our part that we haven't communicated it well. But this year, it's one of the top priorities for us to get as many clubs in the province on board with this club fundraiser. It's simple and secure. It's managed through Canada Helps, which is a recognized fundraising platform. There is a bit of an administrative fee that gets shared between Nordic Canada and Canada Helps. XCSO doesn't take an administration fee on this, but I think the mere fact that we can issue tax receipts is a really phenomenal thing that we have through Nordic Canada. So how does it work? British Columbia has leveraged this fundraiser phenomenally for their clubs. And I've spent some time with Juanis, who's my counterpart in BC, trying to understand exactly how they do that. So basically what I'm doing today is explaining to you what he explained to me and got me really excited about being part of this club fundraiser. So the first thing is the people that, or the clubs that have participated in this, particularly in British Columbia, where they have very large club participation in this, they feel like it's more than just a fundraiser. So what happens is as a club, you come up with a project, and that project gets momentum. And part of the reason it has momentum is because it's a closed fundraising period. And because all of the clubs that are involved in the club fundraiser are on the same kind of web page, you can see what other clubs are doing. You can see how your club's doing. And so it's just a really big community effort across the country. Another thing that happens is as a club or us as a PSO, if you're successful in fundraising, then you become more grant ready because the grantors and the funders and your partners know that you're organized and that you have the capacity and the volunteer support behind you to get projects going. So that's a really positive thing about having a really solid fundraiser. Because it's on a very well-recognized, well-organized page that you don't have to build. There's great visibility. It's very good for community engagement. It's easy to share on social media. It's easy for people to leave comments. So really does create huge visibility for your club and in the community. And of course, tax benefits, having tax receipts, of course, it's something that people always ask when you're asking for money. So the ability to do that is great. Exactly how does it work from your point of view as a club? So The first thing that you need to do, obviously, when you're fundraising and as part of this fundraising campaign, is you need to dream about what it is that you want to do um, as a project within your club. And that project needs to meet the broad definition of what Nordic Canada is about, which is so long as you can prove that your project is either putting more Canadians on skis or all Canadians on skis and more Canadians on podiums, it will get accepted as a project. So what you need to do is choose a project that reflects your club's values or your needs. Come up with an idea and a plan. Once you have that, we have a timeline a little bit further, but once you know what that is and you've put your fundraising group together, you'll build your page, which is very easy to do. And then in January 10th, you launch the fundraiser, or January 11th, whatever date Nordic Canada comes up with the launch for this year. Your page goes live. All you've had to do is copy and paste your project information into it and maybe a couple of pictures. And then Nordic Canada handles the logistics. They do the tax receipts and the thank yous. Layla's going to talk a lot more about thank yous, but the automatic first one comes out from that platform. And XCSO and our staff, what we would like to do as part of this project is be your cheerleaders and help share on social media and motivate. So there will be communication from us to help support you as you work through this. And then because the logistics of this are quite easy, once you have your idea for your fundraiser and you've got your page up, you can now focus on your community and fundraise and not worry about the paperwork and the thank you cards and all those kinds of things. So it's worked very well, and it does work well, and we're really excited to be part of it next year. So here's some ideas of project inspiration. These are projects that have been done in other divisions. So it could be a capital project, like a new Ginzu groomer, or maybe you want to do trail upgrades or build a new adventure trail. Possibly you'd like to buy some new skis to help support youth programming. At PSR, they have a ski playground. That may be something that you'd like to do. Team Hardwood, I'm sure we'll see pictures of it later, have this beautiful new wax trailer as well. And in some cases, it's either building of a shelter or a hut. Now, a lot of the ideas that I've put up here actually to share with you are capital investments, but we'll see in a few minutes that some of the projects that people have done are not necessarily capital improvements. So this is the snapshot of what went on in British Columbia last year. So they had 18 clubs participated. They raised between them $78,344. The club that raised the most was 9,000, about just over 9,000. The average per club was 4,300. And there was this bonus. And this is a BC special, which I think is really great. And if I can get us organized to do this, I'm hoping we can too. Cross Country BC was able to get some anonymous donors who donated $20,000, and BC used that money to kind of gamify this whole club fundraiser. So the total raised by the clubs was $58,000, and then there was an additional 20 that was spread out amongst the clubs as follows. So this is what they did. They kind of made a game out of it between their clubs, and the clubs. I actually have a copy of every single email that was shared about it, and they do a really good job of getting people excited and motivated, and how much people have raised at what point. So for every club that raised $200, with this anonymous donor, the club got an extra 100, and if they raised 800. They would get an additional 300. If they raised 2,000, they got an additional 600. If they raised 4,000, they got an additional 1,000. So this is really exciting. I can't guarantee you that XCSO is going to be able to do this, but this is our goal. So the goal number one is to have many clubs in the province get engaged in this Nordic Canada Club fundraiser from January to March. And of course, our objective is to support the clubs, to be there for you, but also to try to get to a place where we can do this as well. What about Ontario clubs? Oh, I should also mention that last year, BC raised $78,000 through this. The year before, it was over $150,000 that was raised through the club fundraiser. So this is a really great tool for clubs that's been very well leveraged there. Last year, two Ontario clubs participated in the annual club fundraiser. Some of you are on this call. So the first one here that we've got is Sioux Finish. So Sioux Finish, this was Sioux Finish's page. I just kind of copied and pasted it in here. So they raised $4,030 for the annual club fundraiser. And this was their campaign. I won't read it, but what's interesting about this campaign, it was to help Sioux Finish build resilient, confident leaders through sport. So this is not a capital campaign. Maybe someone from Sioux Finish on this call can take 30 seconds to speak to it, but I believe that the funds were used to help support their new coaching staff. And maybe Cassandra or Joanna or Kathy, would you be, or sorry, Christy, would you be willing to comment on how this experience was for you last year using this portal?
I'll let Joanna talk more about it.
Hi, Stephanie. Sure. I
Thank
can.
you.
I'm not sure what you want to hear, but
Was it a good experience? Would you
it was.
recommend it?
Yeah, like I set up the page, and it was extremely easy to use. If anybody's ever done any online fundraising, for the CIBC Run for the Cure, or I think the Alzheimer's Society. There's a few other big organizations that do these fundraisers, and Canada Helps is much the same, and it's really very simple to set up your campaign page, and upload a picture or two and click go. And then really it was just more about sort of spreading the word through our website and our social media and some email blasts to members, and doing that on a regular basis to sort of keep it front and center for the for our target market that we were hoping would contribute to our fundraising effort.
Thank you, Joanna. That's what I was hoping you were going to say. So it's good to get someone on the spot. You get the truth. And it sounds like it went well, and it was quite simple to administer. And you could just focus on the community on the fundraising piece. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
The other club that participated was Nakurtalk, and in fine Nakurtalk fashion, they raised $56,000 through this club fundraiser. And so theirs was a capital campaign. They were looking to upgrade their snowmaking capacity to a greener model. So those were the two clubs that participated from Ontario that participated in this last year. So one of the things I really like about the website is that donors can leave comments. So I looked through a lot of the comments from the fundraiser last year and tried to put them into categories. And so it was community pride, that these were meaningful projects, that people felt a personal connection, shared values. From the Sioux Finish page, it was a personal connection. Well, there were many comments, but the one that caught my eye was, "We're so impressed with the training and support our granddaughters are receiving at Sioux Finish." On the Nakurtalk page, "Thanks for the fantastic ski trails and the vision that has made it so great." So this is a very visible campaign, and just really engages the community. So I guess what we're going to do today as we move through this workshop is invite you to think about what your success story might be at your club, and how you would engage in this project. So what's the timeline? One of the things I don't really love about this fundraiser is that it launches in January. And last year, the information came from Nordic Canada on December 14th. So that means, and part of the reason why we're talking about this now is to try to get clubs thinking and prepared, because we know December 14th to January 10th is really not a time of year where anybody wants to be dreaming of new projects. So part of the reason we're starting early is to invite the clubs to start dreaming, to inspire impact. So what is it that your project would be? So between now and November, determine your project, assemble your fundraising team, and have a concept of what your campaign will be. And then at some point in December, you will receive an email from me inviting all of you to participate in this fundraiser. You would have to fill out an application form, which is really not a big deal. And then once that's been complete, it gets approved, goes to Nordic Canada, and then you'll be able to build your page. And then once the page is built, as Joanna just said, it was very easy to build. You will launch the fundraiser gets launched in early January. And at that point, you start your fundraising when there's an end date at the end of March. Like I mentioned earlier, between November and March, XCSO would help you with your logistics and manage it. And essentially, I think our main role in this would be a cheerleader to encourage you and to give support. But do that with a bi-weekly email to the clubs to try to just show how other clubs are doing and to keep people motivated and on track. And then between February and your annual general meeting, you'll have multiple opportunities to thank your donors, and Layla is going to talk about that. So that's the end of my piece of this. I just really wanted to give us, before we went straight into a fundraising workshop, important to kind of see, where we're going. And so obviously, clubs do not need to participate in the Nordic Canada Club fundraiser. We know that there are clubs that are doing their fundraising on their own, but felt that, to have a project to aim for together, supported by XCSO, was a really great place to begin. So what my call to action to you today is two things. The first one is to imagine that you are going to participate in this Nordic Canada Annual Club fundraiser, and then sit back, turn your cameras on, and allow Layla to help us maybe get the ick out of fundraising by participating in the really great interactive workshop that she's got for us for the rest of our time together. Before I pass this over to Layla, are there any questions? No. Okay, Layla, over to you.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Stephanie. And just a little bit of housekeeping here. As Stephanie said, it's not going to be a one-way dialogue for this workshop. A workshop is obviously engaging. And so I'm going to hope that technology is our friend today. And I'm going to share with everybody a link to all participants for some polls that we're going to do. And when you see a prompt, hopefully there's a open or accept option that applies to you. And if you can give me some thumbs up, or just feel free to take yourself off mute to let me know that it appears you're in, and we'll go from there. So let me just get my screens organized.
It's doing something.
Doing something.
Yep, there it is.
Okay.
There are no active polls at the moment.
Yep, perfect. That's exactly where it should be. And let me just make sure we're all set up here. Okay, so I've got everybody over here on my second screen, and my notes are in front of me. So if you see me over here looking that way, I'm not looking out the window, gazing at the beautiful day while we're all inside looking at our computers. So I have an hour, and you don't see the link to the poll. Okay.
It's in the chat, Nigel. Okay. So you have to open the chat.
Yeah, at any time, if you don't have access, the invitation will sit in your chat. Hopefully that works. If not, we can always come off, and I'm happy to have you share your feedback verbally or in the chat as well. So we're not going to let technology lead the session today. We're going to use it. So I have an hour. Our objectives are very clear. Stephanie and I have spent quite a few conversations talking about what I call this fabulous peer-to-peer fundraising opportunity that she's just introduced to everybody here. So, my goal is to talk about fundraising and how do we get motivated and inspired to fundraise. And ideally, I feel very strongly that this is a really great opportunity for clubs to rally around this fundraising concept. And I say that from an unbiased place. I looked at it very carefully. We've poked holes. So I definitely believe in this opportunity. So I would like to welcome everybody for coming today. Um, it takes time and leadership on your part to do what you're doing in terms of learning, but also engaging your clubs. And I would like to just say a thank you for all the leadership and time that you put into your respective clubs. There is going to be a parking lot because I'm hoping that you'll have some questions. And because I love to talk, I'm going to try and stay on track for time. And I'm happy to stay on and address the parking lot items at the end for those if we have time. But if we need to stay on longer, I make myself available to do that. So as Stephanie said, there will be some pauses built into the presentation because I love to talk and it really helps me take a breath along the way as well. So next slide, Stephanie.
Just a minute. I'm saying hi. Do you think you could copy and paste the link to the poll into this chat with me? I don't see it in the group chat. Okay.
I'll put it
I don't
in
know
there.
how to do that. You can
That's
put it
okay.
back in there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
Sorry, Christy. I just saw that you sent that just to me. Didn't mean to read that out loud for everybody.
There we go. That should
Has everybody got it
work.
now?
I've got it now.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Okay,
Good.
thanks for the
Okay.
feedback, Christy. So if you don't mind scooting to the next slide there, Stephanie. So I share this picture with you because it's on my phone screen right now. And I think looking at people's cell phone covers really is telling. And obviously, this is Canmore. This was out in March in Canmore Mountains. And I just wanted to share with everybody my best memory from the trip was it was the first time for both of my boys, who are both Team Hardwood skiers, to be out there. And my youngest was within an hour of arriving, Mom, this is so beautiful. And it just he kept saying it the whole trip while we were there. So yes, we were there for the national ski competition, but this kid was in awe. And I personally just love the fact that he's learning a love of nature, seeing the world through sport involvement. And so for me, it's a really great day. You can switch slides, Stephanie. It's a really great day when you get to combine two of your biggest passions. So for me, skiing and philanthropy. And you'll notice that I didn't use the word fundraising. So this slide has a lot of words on it. It really just says I've done all sorts of fundraising, all sorts of different revenue channels. I've worked with all sorts of different donor types, volunteer types. I've been in fundraising for over 25 years, which means I'm old. I am committed to all things diversity, equity, inclusion, and certainly continuous learning. And as you can see, I am a Team Hardwood mom, and I am also a Team Hardwood volunteer. So let's move on, shall we? So let's talk about money. Or would you rather talk about skiing? My objective during the course of this time together is to shift perspective away from this thing called fundraising and money. And I would like to transition us to the joy of skiing and creating opportunities. We are going to become opportunity makers through our love of skiing and sharing that during the purpose of this session. So you'll see some pictures of the Team Hardwood trailer project. Stephanie wanted this to be in here, and this is not a Team Hardwood presentation. This is a perfect example, though, of a lot of things that Stephanie just touched on. Most importantly, it's a testament of collective team involvement and pride. This project was a combination of athlete and parent fundraising efforts, a generous gift from the Hallmark of Excellence, and a grant from the Ontario Trillium Foundation. So Stephanie just touched on how leverage can help our teams significantly, and this is a perfect example. So this is a great example of how leverage came together to not just drive revenue sources, but engagement. And obviously, we've got two leaders of this project on the call today, and I think it's a testament to their leadership as well. So I'm going to go to our poll here. So as I said, I can keep talking, but I want to open up this poll and get some feedback from you guys, if you don't mind. So if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to share with me kind of where are you coming from? Where are you coming from during this presentation with regards to your fundraising background? So I'm looking to see if if the poll is working for everyone. If it's not, just give me a shout and I'll happily take down your response. We got lots of curious newcomers. I'm allowing folks in. We've got fundraising flight risk. I totally get it. I understand. We've got confident contributor. So we got a mix here, and I think you're being rather. I think there are some fundraising rock stars on here, and I think maybe you're just not giving yourself the credit where it's due. So I don't know if you guys can see this exactly. So we've got 27% confident contributors, 45 are curious newcomers, and fundraising flight risk, I totally understand at 27%. So I was once there. So just for the record, in terms of the flight risk, and I hope that through participating in this session that we will, oh, I did something. I hope I can help break down some of that fear associated with that. All right, Rob has to hop off. Thanks, Rob. Okay, so this is when I'm going to open up notes here. Where are notes? And I'm hoping everybody can participate in this. So kind of similar to a chat, when we use notes in Zoom, it really just allows us to kind of park our answers collectively, takes the administrivia out of it, and yeah, ultimately, I want this to be a sharing opportunity because anytime we've got multiple clubs who are engaged and talking about fundraising, then I think there's a learning opportunity, and I say that, and I suspect there's lots of learning happening already, cross-sharing amongst clubs, and I would just say keep at it. This is really, really important to do. So you're welcome to either add in here into our notes directly, but I also would love to hear a couple stories from folks about what have been some of the successes that clubs have experienced so far, and why. So I'll give you a moment here if you want to unmute. We've got somebody entering. I've just admitted somebody else. There we go. All right. Any thoughts? Anyone want to share? Hi, Steve. Welcome.
Hello.
We're
You can mute me.
All right. There we go. I see a sponsorship package.
I'm happy to, yeah, I was gonna say, I'm happy to share to start because I have seen that Rena hasn't unmuted herself to share because she's walking her dog. So I'm going to share a story from when I was at a club as a volunteer rather than in my position at XCSO. The club that my home club is Lappy Nordic, and Rena, who's on this call, is from Lappy Nordic as well. Lappy has for years done a skiathon. It used to be a 24-hour relay at the end of the season, and it's been probably the best fundraiser that the club has done over the years. And I think it's successful when the reality of it is it's after nationals, and we used to throw it together in a week, and I don't think it was any different this year. So I'm always thinking about how successful it could be if we actually started it a little bit earlier. And I use that as an example because I know that there's one of the clubs in British Columbia, Fernie, that runs their skiathon through this. That's their annual club fundraiser. And so basically the athletes go out and get pledges per kilometer, and then they go out and ski as many kilometers as they can. And that fundraiser on a good snow year would make between $5,000 and $8,000 for the club in one day. And so I share that as an example because a fundraising campaign could be, it can be a long thing, or like this club in Fernie, or like Lappy does, you could just do it like a one day full on fundraiser. So I share that idea, skiathon, as a club fundraiser.
One day skiathon. Okay. I'm
Oh,
just
Rena's
gonna
got her hand up, so she may want to add to that story.
go nuts, Rena.
Hey, I'm happy to share more. Thanks for sharing that one, Stephanie. Yeah, I think Stephanie undersells herself on what she was doing for our club before she left, but she did everything. And when she left, like many clubs, it's experience, it meant all the remaining volunteers really had to step up. And so we created a new governance structure, including committees, and we created a fundraising committee. So I'm putting that forward as a success because just identifying one person to lead, and then that one person who could then recruit some volunteers and it'd be a little less overwhelming and break down all the things we have to do to make a club run and be successful. So I've been the fundraising chair of this committee for now. This is the second year. And yeah, I'll just put that forward as a success to try to encourage others, because you have to split up the roles. And then part of that is my little committee, which just has two other people. We have now met once a year. So this is our second year. And we put together a bunch of ideas in a spreadsheet. And then we break those down into, okay, great ideas, but what can we actually undertake? And what is our financial goal? And then break those up into who's taking that on. And the big one that I added to the notes was the sponsorship package. So we wanted to formalize the way we're asking community or organizations, businesses for money, so that at the beginning of the year, like summer, we're asking, this is our ask for the year, and this is what we'll give you back. And identifying that up front. And the give back is, of course, the way that we recognize them and promote them and thank them, and making sure we follow through on that. So the sponsorship package has been key. I think we only were able to get an additional maybe $6,000 through it last year, but our dreams are big and we're hoping for more this year. And again, it's even just improving our relationship with businesses we were already asking for money from, and recognizing them better. I'll leave it there.
That's amazing. Thanks, Rena. Rena, can you just remind me, what club are you with? You're with Lappy?
Lappy Nordic in Thunder Bay.
Okay, perfect. What I liked is hearing that your sponsorship campaign runs over the summer. And I think whenever you can move it out of the busy race season space, just gives you more runway, but also just gives you a little more time to manage all the other busyness that comes with a ski season. So I think that's fabulous. I'm seeing, thank you. So we've got some great ideas happening or some great sharing happening in the notes here. What I think would be really helpful, if you could just put your club name kind of in front of your item. So that way, maybe there's some cross sharing to happen. And yes, Rena, it also gives us time to collect the logos and stuff. And I personally work with Team Hardwood on all things sponsorship related. And yeah, it's always a crunch and to get things ready for, December, mid-December when the Candy Cane Cup is happening. So I would encourage folks to continue the discussion, continue learning from each other. There's great things happening already. And Rena, that was all music to my ears around, just how organized you are in it. And I think the better organized you are in it, the more you can bring others to the table to help support you, but also sustain the dollars that you've raised. So let's switch gears a little bit here. I'm just going to put another question at the top here. So similarly, I've just added into the notes another question, if you wouldn't mind. And, rest assured, we'll have these notes that we can share with folks. And I recognize everybody comes from different places of involvement within their team, and that's okay. From your perspective, what has been the biggest fundraising challenge from your perspective that your club faces? And happy to take some comments as well verbally as well here, because and I was specific in asking for the one biggest, because there's probably, I'm asking Pandora's box here. I'm opening Pandora's box by asking you this, and I'm sure there's more than one, is what I'm getting at. So yes, thanks, Stephanie. I see you going there. We got some input going in from Canada Nordic. Anyone want to speak to some of the challenges or your biggest challenge that you've seen fundraising within your club?
I have one that I'd like to bring up. I'd love to hear people's feedback on. I'm from Sioux Finish. One of the things just broadly I'd love to hear about is things are getting tighter financially for families. No one's income has been really going up, and grocery bills have doubled. And I'm concerned about just how much individual families can give when things are just getting tighter and tighter. So that's something I'd love to hear some feedback from, and also just, where we can go from there or how to manage that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Christy, I think that's, so where can I'm going to pop onto that because I see people are still typing away here, Christy. And I think when it comes to a peer-to-peer campaign like the one that we're talking about or focusing on today, to me, that's very much an engaging of people outside of our immediate household. Yes, it's great to lead by example with perhaps, a starter gift, and it shows a little buy-in, but then helping to extend the network. We've heard lots about sponsorships and engaging business, and they can certainly be involved in a peer-to-peer campaign as well. But we've also, so the Nordic Canada fundraising campaign is very individual. And I bring back Stephanie's comment that was pulled off the website or the socials about, Grandma had a chance to add a comment. And I personally haven't asked my extended family to engage in supporting Team Hardwood. I know we do backflips and we do all sorts, but businesses are being approached, and there is this gap in where we're engaging the community and supporting the efforts of our amazing athletes. So I think there's a complement there that works really, really well. Well, also there could be a sponsorship component worked into all of this, or recognition, or a charitable gift from a corporation or business. Unrestricted, I saw a chat there. I'm just switching around here. Challenge fundraising for unrestricted funds to cover operate. This is music to my ears. I get it. Donors. So unrestricted funds. I'm just going to copy this into our notes because I think this is a really great point. Unrestricted funds refers to dollars that aren't project specific. And often that means from a donor perspective, they might feel that I don't want my dollars supporting staff time or turning the lights on or the toilet paper, all the things that are important. Thus, often will fit outside of an unrestricted funding. Donors, I'll give you an example. There's times where it's like we will only fund X, Y, and Z. Thing one, thing two, thing three. And we don't want to support the people, time and effort and the wraparound costs, the indirect costs that go into supporting putting those to use. So that's what we refer to as restricted dollars. So how do you get things to be unrestricted? And that comes down to language. And it's about using language that's not going to be restrictive. But not every donor wants to play there. And lots of donors have a very set objective when they are giving what they will give to. And I love to pick away at those, but I do think people are individuals and we have to meet them where they are as well. No matter you could do backflips. Stephanie.
Yeah. Oh, I have my hand up. Yeah, I was trying not to just jump in. I was thinking about what Christy was asking too, about, and you know, my comment that I put in there was that we're always asking the same people for money. I did notice this year during the Lappy Skiathon, I didn't participate in it, but I was asked to be a donor, and people were giving like $10, $20 at a time, and it was done through a WhatsApp group to personal friends of one of the club members. And it was extremely effective because it was just sort of a WhatsApp group that was created through all your friends and extended family or whoever into it. And it kind of got it rolling. And it was just really interesting how one person was able to raise so much money that way. And I think, you know, back to what I really like about what BC does is they kind of gamify this a little bit and gamify it between the clubs, and so you're not just doing this in isolation. And so whether it be that it's one family reaching out to 30 friends, or whether it's 74 clubs from across the province reaching out into their community, but we're all seeing what each other's doing and encouraging each other, I think it builds momentum. And I I think it makes it feel better, because I know I find it really hard when I'm talking to like one individual or one person and alone, right? Because there is a little, and I understand, Christy, the concern about how much money families actually have, but you know, $20 from 50 families goes along, or 50 friends outside of, you know, the club member, goes a lot further than hoping for that one group that's going to give you 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000, even though those are always so beautiful. So I think, I guess that would be my comment to this, is that I think everything that we do that is successful works around building community. And I think fundraising is the same thing. So if there's a way to have a community feel to the fundraising, that it'll help it be more successful. I don't know, Christy, if that responds directly to what it doesn't respond to the concern that people can't afford their groceries, or that groceries are costing more and rent is costing more and our incomes aren't going up. But the people are happy to play a game and get involved.
I think that's really great, Stephanie. Thank you very, very much. And I'm just keeping an eye on the time here, because we could talk all day about this kind of stuff. And there's lots of very real challenges that are faced by the club. So my goal in having that shared was just that you can see that you're not alone. There's others, and maybe that's a conversation for another day to address where we can some of those. But we're going to move things a little quicker here, just so I can get more into some of the content. So if you wouldn't mind just adding quick to our notes, what capacity are you involved with your club, and why? And you'll see that the why is all caps. I'm not yelling at you. And so if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about who you are and why are you involved? Like we all come with our stories, and I'm just curious a little bit about what your stories are.
I think the notes disappeared because I don't have a place to put in notes.
Oh,
Do other people still have the notes?
I see some activity happening there. So if you go
okay.
down to the bottom menu, notes. you should be able to pop up again, just like how chat pops
Oh,
up.
I see it. It's in the more. Okay. Oh yeah, look at that. Awesome.
There we go. I'll just give you a few minutes there. Ski mom, help fundraise for coaching, parent. Got board members, coaches, facilities, race directors. What I love is there's such a great broad group of folks that have come to the table here. So actually, Stephanie, if we can move forward a couple of slides now, yeah. So perfect, right there is good. All right, and perfect. I'll let you just keep poking away there. That should be pretty good. Um, so there's another poll I would like to do, and I'm just opening it up now. So coach and a parent. Is everyone, so I'm looking for 2, 3, if you feel crazy, go nuts, add more words. How do you personally feel about fundraising? And these are going to populate into hopefully what looks like a word cloud. We'll see how Slido works for word cloud. And how do you feel about fundraising? Be honest with me. I suspect there's some, tiring, important, but daunting community building. Great. Any other thoughts? I see some typing is happening. Apprehensive, pressured. Oh, yeah. Right. I'm also lost the doc on my phone. I'm a mom of athletes. Perfect. Thank you for the chat stuff there. Okay, so to find the Slido, you just go to the chat, and there should be a link in there just to loop back, but that's okay. If it's slowed you down, then just putting stuff in the chat. So yes, thanks, Steve. It's important, essential, and great. So let's so not surprising, there's some words here that, while we recognize fundraising is important, we're also very busy people, each and every one of us, through, our work, our families, our extracurriculars, keeping our kids engaged and involved. There's no shortage of things to do. And so my question to you is, why do we fundraise, right? We know it's an important aspect of what we do, but why do we have to fundraise? Could we just shut it down and not fundraise? Why do we fundraise? What's the purpose of doing this? Why is it essential? Any thoughts? Anyone want to come off mute? Dun, dun, dun. Important, essential. Well, I'm going to use Rob, who's had to hop off here, his word recently. So thanks, Rena, to provide high quality ski activities. And Rob recently, in one of our chats, mentioned it's about accessibility. It's about keeping our program costs as low as we can to ensure the most people possible, depending on how much we can fundraise and how all the pieces come together. We have costs associated to the programming that we do. And this is about accessibility and keeping the sport as inclusive as we can. So we are each here as leaders, regardless of what capacity you are within your team. And our role is really important in building this thing called a culture of fundraising. And so what is that? And that is essentially building an engaged and supportive community who participates in fundraising. One story, one conversation, one campaign at a time. Gord, I see your hand up.
Yeah, Sorry, I'm sort of squawking and squeaking here. Um,
Yeah.
sorry. I think the question for fundraising is, we have become a very expensive sport, and people always say, "Well, it's not as expensive as hockey." Well, that may be true, but we've become an expensive sport, and if we don't do something about it, we're going to have a narrower and narrower base to build the sport from. And if one of Nordic Canada's goals is to get everybody skiing, we have to somehow make it less expensive for people to get in. And I think fundraising is about the only way to do that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's lots of we each have revenue lines in our operating budgets, and unless some of those other revenue lines were a lot higher, um, there wouldn't be a need to fundraise. And I think your example there is your contribution there, Gord, is perfect. It's about building a wide enough base, so we would do that by keeping the sport less expensive. So it's really important as we talk about different fundraising initiatives, including the Nordic Canada annual ski the fundraising campaign, is that it takes time, and there's some amazing results that BC and the other fundraising efforts have had, but just recognize that it takes time, and there is a continuity piece here to happen. So trends in fundraising, there's a whole lot of doom and gloom on these bullet points here. And essentially, thank you, COVID, people have become increasingly disconnected. Fewer Canadians have been giving more, and that's a long-standing trend. And people's networks are smaller. So between the difficulty of fundraising, which is real, and the fact that we have this aversion, this is why Stephanie felt that we should name the session, moving past the ick. There is, let's be honest, challenges associated with fundraising. So let me help try to change that a little bit here. So next slide is an introduction of this thing called philanthropy. And if I could replace the word fundraising with the word philanthropy on every single day, I would be a happy person. And while these are some technical definitions here of fundraising, I've always defined it as it's the voluntary philanthropy is the voluntary action for common good. So I'm trying to introduce this concept because I would like us to shift away from this focus on fundraising, which is indeed the tactical piece of fundraising. It's filled with negative feelings and dread, to why are we doing this? And going back to the why that I just asked you, would you rather talk about money, which to me is more the fundraising, or would you talk about skiing? And skiing is how I feel about philanthropy, and we're engaging people in the voluntary action of common good. And rest assured, research does show that it feels good to give. And so the main difference to me is that philanthropy is rooted in great storytelling about impact. So that's always much more fun to talk about, and why I feel I'm so comfortable speaking about skiing on any given day, because I get to talk about the impact that it has for not just my kids, but how I personally get to engage in this amazing community. So I'm going to pop along here a couple of slides, Stephanie. So we're going to, perfect. So we've heard a bit about the Nordic Canada annual fundraiser, and in connecting with Stephanie on that, there are three key things that I felt as a parent, volunteer of a club, but also as a fundraiser, that I felt would be really helpful to the group. So I'm going to give you some tools. I'm going to go through them pretty quickly here, but you will have the notes, you'll have the slide deck. I think this will be some really great content that will help bolster any activities you choose to engage in, not just with the Nordic Canada fundraiser, but hopefully any fundraising engagement that you do in the community. Thanks, Rena, for hopping in. So let's move on to building a case for support. So case for support is very much an industry lingo. And what is it? So I've put the purpose here for you. It does align your purpose and vision. It creates an internal alignment Obviously, there's discussions. We are committee-driven organizations. There's internal alignment discussions that need to happen to secure what our project is. We need to know how to connect, use language that's connecting donors emotionally and rationally. We need to increase donor confidence that we know what we're doing. A case for support will house all content that you can pull. I like to say rip off and duplicate for all campaign materials and communications. And rest assured, it will improve your ask and it will therefore improve your success. So I like to refer to a case for support as my one-stop shop for herding the cats. We've talked about, we've identified our project and we've understood the why and how we're going to maneuver this project to completion. So let's move on to the next slide here. So I created a little project for everybody here, and I'll let you in on a little secret at the end of this. So I've created a project called Building Champions on and Off the Snow. And I have identified that this project is to secure money for additional cross-country ski team coaching and equipment needed for the team to build amazing athletes. So let's go through the 6 steps of building a case for support. And there's an example in here for each of these, which you get to take away with you as well. Go ahead, Stephanie. Step 1. What's the problem? Why is it urgent? So our athletes dream big and train even harder, but as our cross-country ski team continues to grow in talent and numbers, we're reaching a critical point. We don't have the coaching capacity or equipment needed to keep pace with the potential. Without investment, we risk turning young talent away or falling behind in development. So that sounds great. There's a great step 1 for you. Step 2 is about the solution. What are you going to do about it? Here's a perfect example. We, with enhanced coaching support and modern race-ready equipment, we can ensure that every athlete has the tools that they need to succeed. Lots of great language in there. You can see how hopefully that whatever project you use, here's some language to help you expedite whatever it is you're doing. Step 3, the vision, what success looks like. So here's the example. Imagine a team where every athlete has access to the experienced coaching, properly maintained skis and waxing equipment, and the chance to race at their best. Amazing. So I'm not reading all of this, but we move on to step 4, which will be articulating what are you going to do about it and how are you going to make it happen. And so here we get specific. We need $25,000, arbitrary number. We're going to do these 3 things with it. And I felt it was important for this example to include coaching in addition to some things. And these could be smaller things. I would put a large capital investment as a separate opportunity here. But you can see how these are the things we're going to do. I like this because it's a mix of both things. There's a tangible piece that donors often are inclined to invest in, but let's not also underestimate the critical importance of having additional coaching support. Step 5. So why should you care about this? So these investments will have an immediate impact on performance, morale, and team retention. This is about shaping young people into strong, confident individuals. And then last, but certainly not least, the call to action, what you're asking for. So what do we want folks to do? So we want them to join us in fueling the next generation. Whether your gift is $100 for a new wax brush or $5,000 for additional coaching support, here's the link. You will help athletes like so-and-so be amazing on and off the snow. So my only concern here is that $100 to $5,000 is a very large range. I'm going to address that shortly. So any questions on case for support, and the steps. I realize that was lots of information I just threw at you there. Hopefully it's a good framework and something that you can use to very quickly build what it is that you need to do. So my little secret is that I created this in less than 30 seconds. So thank you, ChatGPT, and I will do a shout out to Liam Ryan, who has mentored me on all things AI. But I simply, now that you have the steps, once you have chatted with your club, you have a sense as to what you would like to do. I simply had to put this prompt into ChatGPT and ask it to create a case for support and outlined the steps that I wanted it to follow. So you've got that. So I would just like to say right now, creating your project, yes, you need to have dialogue within your clubs. Make sure you're all in alignment on what you need dollars for, but articulating the language is right there. So with that, I'll move on. And let's keep going. One more slide there. So 2 slides here that approach what I'm calling the dreaded ask. And I have assumed in this case it's in person because we can all create emails and push them out. Just make sure those emails tell a really compelling story, have a great photo, have the link, be very clear in a call to action. But in person is something that's tends to be where a little more dread sits, but it's also more effective. So why are you doing this? Just know that when you're engaging publicly with a fundraising campaign, people give to people, not organizations. They don't want to hear about, the organizational structure. They don't want to hear about your operating budgets. Maybe they do if they're considering significant gifts, but for the purposes of a peer-to-peer campaign, people give to people. And making sure you're finding opportunities to ask in person is really going to help you. Do a little homework. So going back to the, $100 to $5,000, that's a really big range to ask. So I would be tailoring an ask to somebody based on what I know about them. We're not going to do a lot of homework here. We're simply indicating that we need $25,000. They know what the ceiling is. And then we're going to create a range. And a range to me is really, really helpful for, will you support us with $2,500 to $3,000? Something that makes sense. $100 to $5,000, not so much. And then you're going to practice out loud because asking somebody face to face can feel, that's where people can often get a lot of dread. So practice out loud what it is you want to ask. Would you consider making a gift of $1,000? We're going to hire a coach and give our athletes access to much needed equipment. It's that simple, but practice goes a long way. And you'll notice that that's also very clear and direct. I love asking for a range. Make sure there's a purpose and impact. And you can see how all of these also translate to putting an email ask in, but I would encourage you to consider where you can make some in-person asks. And then after you make the ask, the hardest part is to be silent. Stop talking, give the donor space to think and respond. It's so intuitive to keep talking and to have that nervous content fill the space. So there's an example here of how you can message how their gift will have an impact. And no matter what, you're going to be gracious. You're going to thank them sincerely, whether they said yes or no. Thank them for their time and their openness. So it's okay to get no's. And rest assured, in the fundraising world, we have an idea usually of what our success rate is, and that ratio of how many times do you need to ask before success. So rest assured, You will receive no's. You'll probably hear some crickets too, but be gracious. And I think anytime that you're having that conversation, you're building awareness of your club and the activities. So a follow-up is really helpful, but also believe in what you're offering. You're not asking for money. Yes, but more importantly, you're offering them an opportunity to be a part of something meaningful. You are indeed an opportunity maker. You're connecting them to the sport, and remember that it feels good to give. So let's carry on here. Next slide. Any questions around the ask piece? So lots of pieces there that you can see. There's language in there that you can use to support your teams. There's a couple more coming up, and I'm going to carry on to those just because I want to make sure we get to our final component. We're going to talk about the thank you. This is the fun part, like the really fun part. And it's important to know that donors who are thanked well tend to increase their giving, refer family and friends, and give in other ways. And so when we can acknowledge and inform people before we make an ask again, that's the ideal structure. So thank you goes a long way. Industry norm is that thinking ideally happens within 48 hours. It doesn't always happen, but that just gives you an idea of what an ideal can look like. It needs to be personal. Dear friend, dear donor, doesn't work. This is about the person who chose to give to you because you made an ask. I often will start thank yous with because of you. Naturally, when you do that, you land on an impact statement. Because of you, 30 athletes had the opportunity to train with a new coach this year who really brought new experience to the table. And then there's this multiple touch points. So I would consider scheduling or creating a plan that has 3 thank you opportunities. So a prompt personal message, and rest assured that automated message from Canada helps, doesn't count. Here's your machine thank you with your tax receipt. That's great, checks a box administratively, but it doesn't really go far to thank. There's a mid-season update message for donors, and I think you get bonus points if you put in a picture. And last but not least, an end of season update and or invitation. Engage them in your team. So let's carry on. Any questions so far? That's kind of it for the download of content. So I'm hoping there's some nuggets in there that are very helpful to you. But we'll flip now, Stephanie, to the Nordic Canada Annual Club Fundraiser page. And one more. There we go. So just going back to here, I thought this was a great slide because there's lots of great impact here. The logistics, what are the logistics? We did create the beginnings of an activities and timeline breakdown coming up on the next slide. If you can switch, Stephanie. So the Nordic Canada, because they are recognized as a charitable organization able to accept or issue tax receipts, they need to be involved for the platform managing tax receipts, and there's administrative logistical pieces behind the scenes there. So rest assured, any platform except for one that I know of requires an administration fee, and it's usually very, very nominal. And in this case, there's other things that are happening behind the scenes administratively from a Nordic Canada perspective, no doubt. And as Stephanie touched on, there's the motivational outreach opportunity. There's cheerleading, engagement of social media. I think this peer-to-peer campaign is a huge opportunity to build awareness of cross-country skiing across our networks. And then maybe the opportunity for some participation incentives and the gamification piece that Stephanie touched on. So next slide includes a breakdown, a recommended, or shall we say drafted breakdown of what kind of a timeline would look like to do the Nordic Canada annual fundraiser. So summer, fall. No need to wait until things get busy to know what we need dollars for. I know our financials indicate that we should have a good sense at that time of year anyways what the financials would need. Mid-December, there would be, as Stephanie said, an XCSO email with a call to action to join the campaign in a simple form. And this is part of the administration that Nerdy Canada would have to manage. So applications happen. And then it's really about promotion, because once that link is live, it's how are we going to broadcast and broadcast regularly the fact that we're doing a campaign. And I say broadcast, and that makes it sound like it's just putting it on social media a whole bunch and sending it a bunch of emails. But I strongly, strongly encourage where can in-person asks happen to strengthen your success rate. And then what pieces does your club choose to do from a thank you plan perspective? And whether you choose to do all three or not, that's completely up to you. But that's my recommendation. And yes, it requires some time and effort from somebody, but it really is just sharing the stories of what's happening within the team, some pictures with lots of thank you and love all over it, so donors feel the love. So so we've got 15 minutes left. So I feel like I had to plow through all that because there was so much I wanted to share. But how about I stop talking for a little bit? And I wanted to pose to everybody, what do you think, knowing what Stephanie has shared, and with this content that I'm hopeful will be valuable to any implementation. What do you think? What do you think your club needs to be successful? What are you feeling around this and how it correlates to what you're currently doing? Would it be helpful to do this maybe in lieu of something that's a lot of work? And I'm thinking of the event that was, yes, any events that you do are going to be very laborious and often costly and have very small net return. But I've just put into the notes here, just opened up a section here. What do you think your club might need to be successful if you were to do this annual club fundraising? Thanks, Ray. See Ray's popping off. All right. So I've just put into notes here, a lead organizer. Yep. Yeah, any other thoughts? You're welcome to come off mute as well and share your thoughts. Lead organizer, who isn't me, right? Yes. A foundational document that gives. Yeah. Any other thoughts here? This is so we'll keep noodling this one because I realized, a lot of information was just posed to you. But, what projects might come to mind? And I say this recognizing we're all coming to this discussion today from different perspectives, but happy to share some of the ideas that folks might have. Any projects come to mind that folks want to banter about? Dun, dun, dun. I'm just adding the what projects come to mind as well to the notes here. All right, I see some typing still happening. Take a moment. So a foundational document that gives language and purpose to help the campaign move forward. Yeah. And you know what? I thought a lot about this already. And the messages that the cheerleading the message that's coming out from XCSO, what I see could happen is that simply being flipped with some, hey team, this is how we're doing. And, here's some tips and tricks to help you be successful. Let's keep at it. And pulling those tips and tricks right from some of the content that I've provided to you around how to make an ask or the value of thank you. So I did see a chat comment. Where did my chat go? There. More of a question for other clubs. Is your fundraising siloed? Race team versus other components run by volunteer or admin by a staff person? So I'm just going over to notes here.
Yeah, sorry, it's kind of Nordic asking
Yeah.
about that. We've had people on kind of fundraising or grants lead or fundraising lead. They rarely have stuck around for more than 2 years, I think is our current longest tenured person who's stuck around for the last decade. Um, and so we're wondering, a lot of the grants we've won have been done by an individual lead for either a program or a silo within inside the club, right? So the biathlon head coach found a grant and won it, which was great. But then the person who is kind of running grants is like, well, what's my role? And in theory, we were like thinking that that person would work on a lot of the larger grants or ones that have more paperwork going into them, such as Trillium and other things, as well as help with fundraising or sponsorship. So I'm just curious to know, like, have people had success with having somebody who's kind of leading this area of responsibility, or has it worked that it's sort of a staff person, like you have a general manager, which we don't? But then anyway, so it's just more of a process problem than a or question than anything else.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to me there is fundraising is a team sport. And often, when folks are engaging in fundraising outside of perhaps a driver or a lead in this case, there's confusion that's created or some animosity at times, and how do I fit and how do we do this? And it's a great problem to have, rest assured. But how do we herd the cats? How do we do better at letting folks know who's on first, who's engaged already elsewhere? And so, for example, with the Team Hardwood sponsorship piece, is we ask folks to add to an Excel document. They all have an open link to this document of where are you engaging, which naturally informs others where they don't need to go to. Or maybe if you're already engaging, if somebody's engaging with company X, maybe I can help you with that. And so to me, it comes down to communication, clarity of need. There's my timer. Clarity of need around the organization. So making sure the organization, the board is very clear on what you need dollars for, because I fundamentally struggle with mission drift. And we see money driving our mission. Mission should drive money. And so making sure that we have that clarity from a leadership perspective around whether you have paid staff or you're a volunteer driven organization, where do we need dollars? Put that in a case for support. Everybody's singing from the same songbook. And then it's a question of where are we engaging externally, whether it's through grants application. Individuals gets a little more tricky because I'm reaching out to my personal network, so I wouldn't encourage tracking of relationships there. But when it comes to the bigger opportunities, what's your tracking mechanism? And keep it simple. Keep it like an open Excel document so folks know where movement is happening and where you can help each other. And sometimes helping means you don't need to do anything in this case. And so if I've given you the tools and resources that you need to be successful, great. Let me know how I can help you. And fundraising is a team sport. And hopefully does that help a little bit?
Yeah, it does. I think it's tricky because I think every club has their own culture, and but also it's mutable and it keeps changing depending who's volunteering for what.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thanks for that. So is there any other thoughts around um, anything that comes to mind after seeing what Stephanie and I have presented today that you feel your club would need? So some of the things that have been put in the notes, obviously, as a lead organizer, a central document to support language and purpose of the campaign. To me, that's your case for support. A case for support is fundraising lingo for your project and just articulating your project. And that should, as I said, it can be quite easy to do nowadays, not being a writer, which not everybody is. So, yeah, and once again, the
I
fundraising
do.
leadership. Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
well, Joanna's got her hand up. She can go first. Yeah.
Go ahead, Joanna.
Yeah, thank you for that, Leila. It was really very well done and very informative. And even having taken a stab at doing a Canada Helps campaign ourselves this year, I think we still learned a lot, or I learned a lot about some other things that we could do. And I think your point about not just relying on the text message, but to actually do some in-person asks. We did not do that, and I do wonder if some sort of campaign or just asking, so I don't know, like I just had ideas about, our club members or our ski team families promoting it verbally to their friends and family, because not everyone is on social media, not everyone reads emails that they get, that sort of thing. So trying just thinking about how to broaden the ask, and thinking about the people that benefit from whatever it may be, whether it's raising funds for a coach or improving trails or snowmaking, whatever a club has for fundraising. If Cross Country Ski Ontario could assist in pushing those social media messages out to that wider audience, because we have it on our social media, but it's only the people that follow us that are going to see it, or the people who might share it. But if Cross Country Ski Ontario were to also share what the clubs post for their fundraising campaigns, and it goes broader because there are neighboring clubs and people who ski in various areas, or shared areas, or sometimes they share coaching resources, like in the north, for example, well, anywhere in Ontario. We have our excellence camps, we have our ski camps, and we need coaches to be able to go to those camps, and we need coaches to be trained to be able to coach our kids at these camps. And so even though we're doing a fundraiser in Sault Ste. Marie, someone in Timmins or Sudbury or North Bay might want to support that campaign. But for us to reach them, we need some help through Cross Country Ski Ontario in terms of pushing that message out. So it's just sort of an observation that I had in terms of how broad a reach we were actually achieving with our social media campaign.
Mm-hmm. Joanna, that's a really good point. And as I reflect on how, what Cross Country Ski Ontario's role can be in this, I've been making notes as I think this through as well. And when the emails go out with how we're going to do this together, I haven't fully flushed it out, but there's going to be some specific instructions. Like, for example, when you post your campaign to Instagram, ask XCSO to be a collaborator, right? Because as soon as you do that, it's now Sioux Finish and XCSO that are putting this out, right? And some clubs have actually figured that out. Like, for example, Arrowhead last year, when they were running youth championships, Every single post that they made was XCSO was a collaborator on it, and that's club driven, right? So Holly was doing that, and so that actually automatically makes it broader, right? And as soon as we do that, then also people following XCSO are seeing what's going on and whoever, right? And so that's a like instant way as I'm learning how to use Instagram. And I think it's funny that Layla's saying that Liam Ryan was teaching her how to use AI. All the kids on NTDC are trying to teach me how to use Instagram, right, in Thunder Bay. So our community of adult volunteers, if I can call it that, we don't have a handle on how to maximize that social media yet. And so, yes, I hear you. And part of the role that I see XCSO playing in this is figuring out how to leverage the social media and the message. And then it becomes like I said, the whole gamify thing of it, I think is important. Like so that you will know to finish what's going on over, like, for example, I think 3 or 4 years ago, Englehart, which is a tiny club somewhere up around Cochrane. I haven't been there yet. They actually got, someone mentioned this last night, but I knew about this campaign through the Nordic Canada fundraiser. They have a piston bully, like tiny little club for of recreational skiers. So and so for all of us to see those projects and campaigns, it's pretty exciting. So I agree with you that it's the communication and the way to bring us all together. And that's the role that we hope to play at XCSO to support this and get your message further. The other thing too, the other thought that I was having as I was listening to the comments and reading the questions is that when I think back on successful fundraisers that I've seen, it's so for example, I put a question up there, would people be game to do the skiathon thing, right? Lappy's done, and Lappy's not the only club that does this, but Lappy does that skiathon every single year. And everybody knows it's coming, and the athletes get behind it, and that sends the athletes out to do the ask, or their parents, depending on the age of the athlete. But the vision or the ask is different. It's like this year's project is whatever, right? And we use the skiathon to do that. NTDC hosts a Nordic Fest every year. And the community is kind of behind that Nordic Fest. They know it's coming, they're expecting it. And I think part of why this works in BC is that the club, like, because they've been involved in this annual club fundraiser for so many years, in a cohesive kind of way, everybody's just expecting it. Oh, it's going to come. I wonder what the club's ask is this year, and so it becomes a habit. And then that builds the communication. I hope that that's helpful, but I think that's the way as a community that we can support each other.
Unless you want to have another bake sale or sell more chocolates or cookies or, things. So I think this is a whole lot more effective. And maybe the Knacker Talk bake sale is, unrivaled in bake sales that I've ever seen. But, this to me is a great opportunity to not just engage social media, Stephanie. I would also say, where can we engage media as a whole? And I know media has been ripped apart in so many ways, but this is all great news stories that we could be sharing through other media sources as well. So I would want to think broader. Just for the sake of time, I know a number of people have had to drop off, but a reminder to folks that the session has been recorded, the presentation will be shared. I encourage you to please rip off and duplicate from any of the content shared. That was the purpose today. This was for you. And I've put a link in a survey link in the chat. It should take no more than 30 seconds to do. I don't know why it has a picture of a picnic at the top of the survey. Don't ask me why. Google wouldn't let me change that. But I'm really hoping that we had a chance to motivate and inspire you to engage in this thing called fundraising, or what I would prefer to call philanthropy. And hopefully you're energized around this new concept. I've poked and prodded with Stephanie at this, and I do think it's a great opportunity that will complement or even streamline a lot of the efforts that are already happening at a club level. So thank you for taking just a moment to fill out the survey. And just remember, a final thanks to each and every one of you for your leadership and your willingness to embrace this thing called philanthropy. So my parting words for you would be to let's just keep talking about skiing and remember that it feels really, really good to give. So that's it from me. Thank you so much. Did the survey link work? Hopefully it's working.
Yeah, I've got it. It worked for me. Layla, thank you so much for taking the time to come and bring your expertise to us today. I know that working with Layla, actually it started as I heard that Layla was good at this kind of stuff, and I called her to help me and XCSO come up with a fundraising plan, and this is where we got to. So I do hope that this was helpful, and I hope that this is just a beginning of a conversation of how we can all work together to grow our sport and our community. So thank you, Layla. And like Layla said, we will, once we have this a session this afternoon or tonight, but we will share all this information on the website and then in my monthly email to the club administrators will receive it as well.
On that note, have a fabulous day, folks. Go make a gift somewhere. It feels good.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much, Layla.
Layla, can you stop recording, please? Thanks.
I'll try.
I lost my control over this meeting.